It was at this moment he knew he fucked up.
Yeah, that might be the hardest L I've ever taken in video game history. Sekiro shadows die twice, and in some circumstances, 3 times. I got my ass clapped so many times to get you guys this boss ranking, so I hope you guys enjoy my authentic gameplay. As always, this is your boy DrewSpacely. Today, we're going to rank the top 15 bosses within Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I'm going to rank them off lore, difficulty, and art direction, and give you my reasons why. Who's going to claim the top spot? Let's find out. But first and foremost, if you've been watching my content for a little bit, please consider subscribing. I post content weekly, and you don't want to miss a thing. Thanks. Number 15, Headless Fights. To start off this list, we have the Headless Fights. As you all might know from various item descriptions in-game, the sugar candies in Sekiro are named after Ashina's 5 famous war heroes. Eventually, these heroes fell from grace and lost their minds, and became dishonored samurai that died under cruel circumstances. I mean, you know, like cutting off their heads. Upon defeating each Headless variant, you're given an item known as a Spearfall item, and there's exactly 5 to collect in-game. The special Spearfall items gives the candy effects infinite use as long as you have spear emblems on hand. This not only implies that the Headless are these war heroes, but in my opinion, this lore is incredibly fascinating, and in defeating these mini-bosses, you're given really strong items that tremendously help in the endgame. Sekiro technically has 2 variations of Headless Fights, the typical Headless with blue smoke and them creepy ass grabby long arms. Then there's the underwater versions. Both are fun fights, but I enjoy the normal variations the most because they require an item known as Divine Confetti to damage them, plus they require 2 death blows to kill. I'm a huge fan when fights need extra preparation, and it just makes this fight super unique when it requires precise execution on a first time playthrough, or else you'll run out of Divine Confetti until the second half of the game. Number 14, Divine Dragon. The Divine Dragon boss fight comes in 2 phases. You have the old dragons of the tree phase, who are a bunch of small, weak, and old dragons who play flutes to appease the divine Sakura dragon, and use Everblossom magic as attacks by spitting poison and summoning roots. These guys take only 1 death blow, and are super easy to take down. I mean, like, no bullshit, these are like baby dragons, they just sit around and wait to get murked. Then in phase 2, we have the Divine Dragon. I'm a huge fan of this boss's design. He looks badass and towers Sekiro while holding onto a sword made entirely of magic. He commands wind attacks and can control the Everblossom and its roots. My only main gripe with this fight is that it's a spectacle fight. You don't actually attack this boss until the end when you deal its death blow. The entire fight centers around Sekiro using lightning strikes to weaken the dragon, which, besides the Mortal Blade, is its only weakness. And everything else revolves around jumping and dodging attacks properly. This is a unique fight, and the lore is super important to the game as a whole, but the heights of Sekiro are so high, it gets to the Divine Dragon placed at number 14. Number 13, Gyoubu Oniwa. Serving under Genichiro Ashina, Gyoubu Oniwa is the last line of defense for Ashina Castle gates, and the Minister of Justice. He's the first major test of strength within Sekiro, and the first true boss fight. The first time I approached the gates at Ashina Castle, this guy jump scared the shit out of me. And watching this madman on an armored horse wielding a gigantic cross-bladed spear blast through the gates of Ashina Castle, it really set the stage. This fight teaches the player the importance of deflecting to increase the posture meter to acquire a death blow, and it's such an important fight mechanic at the perfect time in the game to be taught to the player. But like, deadass, considering what boss fight is next, if you don't learn this fight, you might as well just drive your car into a brick wall. In a way only From Software can accomplish. Once you learn his attack patterns, this fight becomes mind-numbingly easy, but I'll never forget the first time fighting him, and the incredible challenge he once was for me. The art direction behind his design is also really cool. Being the only enemy in the game to ride a horse, it adds another level of uniqueness to him. Overall, Gyoubu Oniwa is a solid fight that teaches the player to get good to progress, and as the first boss fight, it's all you can ask for. Number 12, Orin of the Water. Compared to other mini-bosses within Sekiro, Orin of the Water is something truly special. She can be found sadly playing the shamisen, an instrument that resembles a small guitar. She'll ask passerbys if they know the whereabouts of her lover, Lord Zakuza. But when Sekiro informs her that he doesn't know his whereabouts, she'll become violent and attack him, claiming that he's lying to her. She's one of many apparition type enemies within Sekiro. And just like prior fights, if you use Divine Confetti, it'll increase your damage output. Without Divine Confetti, it'll decrease your damage output 1.5 times. I find this fight very fun and incredibly challenging. The combination of deflections and jump attacks to increase her posture meter to obtain a death blow is a great change for combat, and having her primary weakness being the jump attack outside of Confetti use makes knowledge power. Her lore of being a lovesick ghost being able to enchant others through music is enticing, and I love how she affects the outcome of other NPCs within the game. She even has a cheese that's pretty easy to pull off, but I assure you, if you do that, you're robbing yourself of one of the best mini-boss fights in the entire game. Number 11. Corrupted Monk. Illusion. The first encounter with the Corrupted Monk is actually an illusion of her. She guards the entrance to the Wedding Cave door that enshrines the Shelter Stone. I love her awesome purple/blue transparent glow, which lets you know she's yet another apparition type enemy within the game. Once again, you can use Divine Confetti to increase your damage output, and if you desire, you can cheese max damage with ash and firecrackers. But over here, we don't play that shit. I enjoy this fight because the Corrupted Monk's movesets are aggressive as hell and nicely telegraphed. Plus, it prepares you for a more grueling fight later on in the game. Deflecting and finding openings to damage takes time to figure out outside of using firecrackers, and it's a nice change of pace to require one death blow and a much more forgiving posture meter. Number 10. Lady Butterfly. A master of illusion and the once trainer of the young wolf Sekiro. After many years, Sekiro relives a memory that resends him back to Harada Estate and finds Lady Butterfly is working with the bandits that are currently attacking the estate and is holding Kuro under a trance. After this realization, he must challenge his old mentor and defeat her once and for all. This fight is broken into two phases. The first phase is a one-on-one with Lady Butterfly, where you must play aggressive and dodge her attacks, especially when she attacks while floating. After defeating her the first time, you'll realize that she's actually battling you with an illusion, and she's sitting on top of the Buddha statue watching Sekiro's every move. In this second and final phase, she'll use every trick she has to defeat Sekiro, including all moves from the first phase, as well as illusions and magical butterfly projectiles you must run away from or else they deal massive damage. Overall, this fight is very intense. It took me many tries to learn, much like many bosses on this list. Although she's not one of my favorite design-wise, I'm in love with the lore surrounding her, and her fight is very rhythmic and fun to learn. Number 9. Great Shinobi Owl. The once great Shinobi Owl and the wolf's foster father has fallen from grace and been seduced by the dragon's heritage. Seeking the divine heir's blood for himself to gain immortality, after faking his own death, he asks Wolf to respect the Iron Code and abandon Kuro. And since Sekiro has undying loyalty, there is only one thing left to do: break the Iron Code and protect who he's been sworn to protect. Ensuing a battle between the two. The fight with Great Shinobi Owl is fast-paced and a lot of fun. He has tons of tricks up his sleeves, from throwing shurikens and firecrackers to using smoke bombs that will take away Wolf's healing ability mid-fight. And don't you dare do any sort of thrusting or loaded spear attacks, cause he will Makiri counter the shit out of you. Plus, the beginning cutscene before the fight makes Great Shinobi Owl look like a freaking badass. Number 8. Lady Ima and Isshin Ashina. Now, on the alternative side of things, if you decide to obey the Iron Code and you side with Great Shinobi Owl, you'll start the Shura ending. This ending sees Wolf fight both Ima the Gentle Blade followed by Isshin Ashina, who are trying to protect Kuro from Great Shinobi Owl and Sekiro. This, in so many ways, is the bad ending for the game. It not only locks you out of the last third of the game, throwing you in a new game plus underleveled, but you're fighting and killing your companions. It's actually hilarious how many people gets tricked into this ending for the first time playthrough. I mean, like, it's not like we can break the Iron Code any other time we play the game, so of course we're going to obey the Iron Code now. Lore-wise, this fight is a catastrophe, but the fight itself is one of the best. Ima for the first encounter is simple enough. She's not too hard, and as long as you play aggressive and pay close attention to her boss tells, you'll quickly defeat her. But the real challenge for this fight comes with Isshin Ashina. This dude has fast attacks, and it's relentless as hell. Once you acquire your first death blow, and you bring him into phase 2, he'll use fire to his advantage, and you must dodge and jump flame attacks, while trying to block and deflect your way to victory, all while finding room to punish. Number 7. Headless Ape. After defeating Guardian Ape in the Sunken Valley, you'll fight the headless variant of him in the Ashina Depths. But this time, there's a twist. The arena is about half the size, and after the initial death blow, you'll be attacked by a secondary brown ape. I mean, this is the first duo fight in Sekiro, and it made me want to rip my own head off. All the movesets from the brown ape remain the same from phase 1 of the Guardian Ape fight, and all the movesets from the Headless Ape remain the same from phase 2 of that same fight. It is such a pain in the ass. But you're literally just juggling both phases simultaneously. This shit tested my sanity at times, and by the way, fuck you, Terameter. But once you learn the Headless Ape's prime weakness, and that the brown ape's health bar is actually really small, you can just prioritize the brown ape and make the rest of the fight very manageable. This fight can reach peak toxicity at times, but the art direction makes it all worth it in the end. They even have a nice hidden aspect of killing the Headless Ape by pulling out its centipede to take away its immortality. This fight would be much higher for me, but it's just a creative way to repurpose one of the best boss fights in the game, so it sits at number 7. Number 6. Genichiro Ashina. Genichiro Ashina, the current leader of the Ashina clan and every newcomer's favorite fight, or brick wall. Concerned the might of his army might not be enough to defeat the raid of troops from the Interior Ministry, Genichiro plans to abduct the Divine Heir, to obtain his gift of immortality and save his clan and beloved country. The first encounter with Genichiro is meant to be lost. It's how the wolf loses his arm and gains his new prosthetic arm. But midway through the game, atop Ashina Castle, Wolf once again challenges Genichiro, but this time with vengeance in his heart, planning on saving Kuro from his grasp. My first time fighting Genichiro was not only painful, but it took me so long to beat. But today, when I fight him, it's almost like a dance I can recite with my eyes closed. But that's the beauty of a game like Sekiro. Once I learned that you must play aggressive, it changed the way I approach fights within the game. Eventually, I slashed and Mikiri countered my way to victory and pulled out the win. But much to my surprise, and I should have known better, cause this dude never fucking stays dead. But after a cutscene that made my soul leave my body, Genichiro pulls a dirty little trick by grabbing the power of lightning on his sword and arrows through the Way of Tomoe, a technique acquired through his mentor, Lady Tomoe. Now at first, of course I was pissed to learn that this guy had a third phase, but after years of playing this game, that is actually what makes this fight so special. I had to really dig deep with this one to learn the meaning of get good. Way of Tomoe is actually such a masterclass in boss design, and it becomes a piece of cake once you learn to deflect lightning properly, play aggressive, and for the love of God, Mikiri counter. Number 5. True Corrupted Monk. The Corrupted Monk was seen earlier on this list, but instead of facing her projection, we face the actual monk herself. She goes by the real name Priestess Yao, and wields a naginata while wearing nun attire and a Hanya mask covering her face. Overall, her design is one of my favorite designs in the game, and this fight is incredibly intense. Instead of the typical 2 death blows needed to defeat your opponents in this game, the True Corrupted Monk actually requires 3. Each phase upping the ante with difficulty and slightly changing the movesets and aggressiveness of the Corrupted Monk. Not to mention, since we know she's capable of using projections, she actually bombards Sekiro with black transparent projections of herself in between phases. She trying to play dirty and chip away some damage, I see. Eventually, in the final phase of this fight, it's revealed that the True Corrupted Monk is also infested with a centipede by it protruding from its neck, signaling that she also has immortality. Her worst move by far is within this phase, where her centipede will spit terror upon Sekiro, killing Wolf instantly. Yeah, that's some grimy ass shit. Lore-wise, she has so much depth to her character overall, and I think between the projections and the centipede, it makes her one of the most interesting antagonists within the game. Much like the first fight with her illusion, this fight can also be cheesed quite easily. But over here, we don't play that shit. The True Corrupted Monk is an absolute force of nature, and once I pulled out the centipede and disposed of her properly, it solidified her as one of the top fights within Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Number 4. Guardian Ape. Deep within Sunken Valley lurks this monstrosity. The Guardian Ape is an immortal being in charge of protecting the lotus of the palace. Legend has it that the flower scent attracts female apes, so it's obsessively caring and protecting for it to offer to a potential mate one day. It seems multiple people have fought and lost to the Guardian Ape, considering the gigantic sword sticking out of the side of its neck. First of all, this is an A1 boss design, if not one of the best boss designs in all of video game history. During the first phase of the fight, the Guardian Ape is aggressive as hell. He'll jump, slam, and swipe all sorts of attacks, and he'll even take it as far as slinging his poop at Wolf, which could potentially poison him, making him easily the most disrespectful boss in Sekiro. After acquiring the first death blow, Wolf will use a sword lodged in the Guardian Ape's neck to cut off his head, making it one of the best kill animations in the entire game. Wolf literally gave this dude a fatality for Mortal Kombat. But considering he's an immortal being, he'll rise again, head and sword in hands, creating the best shock value moment in the entire game. The most devastating attack from the ape is when his centipede screams from inside of his headless body, creating a circumference of terror buildup. And if you're not careful, that shit will fuck you up. But after learning his attack patterns and deflecting properly, this boss really isn't all that difficult at all. And you know, if you're having a tough time, he's also incredibly afraid of firecrackers. After killing the ape, you're given the Slender Finger, which was owned by a friend of the sculptor, implying that she was the one who impaled the ape with the sword in the neck, and ended up devoured in the process. Man, what a horrible way to go out. Number 3. Isshin, the Sword Saint. The opening of this fight is quite poetic. The final fight in the game starts in the same field Sekiro lost his arm, and to the same person he lost in battle to, Genichiro. But this time, he's using the Black Mortal Blade to help aid him in battle. After Wolf quickly disposes of Genichiro, he uses the Black Mortal Blade to summon a younger version of Isshin Ashina from the Beyond to help aid him in battle. Because of his grandson Genichiro's sacrifice, Isshin agrees to help grant his last wish by defeating the wolf once and for all. And it might literally be one of the most epic things I've ever seen. Isshin is considered the hardest boss in the game by most, and I would have to agree with him being at least the top 3. I mean, I did put him at number 3, right? Isshin in his prime is an ultimate badass. And after defeating Genichiro, he has 3 phases which require 3 death blows, all having their own weapon and movesets of attack. This fight forces you not to hesitate in the slightest in order to pull out the win, and for me, it's incredibly memorable. Once I finally beat Isshin, I was a god at fighting this man, and it's exactly how a final boss should feel. Number 2. Demon of Hatred. The Demon of Hatred is quite literally a vessel for Wolf's hatred. It's the embodiment of resentment for Wolf, since he failed to embody Shura by the end of the game. The Demon of Hatred even has striking parallels to Wolf, by having only one arm which resembles a prosthetic and a rope sling. Being consumed by flames, and the embodiment of them, his attacks are primarily fire-based, and they deal tons of damage to Wolf if he's not maxed out on vitality and posture. Just like majority of the endgame fights in Sekiro, he requires 3 death blows in order to defeat, and he's the definition of what I would call an endurance fight. I really had to dig deep in order to pull out the win on this fight. It's so incredibly difficult, and most people just avoid this fight entirely, or they just downright cheese him. But I said it once, and I'll say it again, we don't play that shit. The lore payoff for this kind of fight is huge, and there's so much symbolism involved, and I love it so much. When Wolf finally defeats the Demon of Hatred, a voice thanks him for putting an end to the rampage, and it's quite ironic. My interpretation of this is that Wolf quite literally killed and defeated the flames eating at him on the inside, that wanted him to become Shura and embrace the demon, and with killing the Demon of Hatred, he was able to pass it on to the next life. Number 1. Owl Father. Now the final entry on the list, Owl Father. This boss, in my opinion, is the hardest boss fight in the game, and the most fun. After defeating Lady Butterfly, Wolf was assassinated by Shinobi Owl for his own selfish benefits of claiming dragon's blood for immortality and power. With Wolf learning that Owl has been helping the bandits to claim Harada Estate, Wolf eventually returned to Harada Estate in the past to take on his stepfather in his prime, a much faster and stronger version of Shinobi Owl, and he possesses magical attacks that can deal devastating damage to Wolf. Just like the fight earlier on this list, you cannot stab or thrust your sword, because he will Makiri counter the shit out of you. His most devastating attacks are in his second phase, where he fights with magical abilities. And yes, I am talking about your stupid fucking phoenix. Or it'll help him transform into an owl and help him teleport to deal devastating slam attacks from the air. The lore behind this kind of fight has huge payouts, and I find it super fascinating. He's such a great villain, and art direction wise, he's a hulking beast of a man. He's fast, aggressive, and much like Isshin, hesitation really means death. Now thank you guys so much if you stayed the entire time. Sekiro's boss fights truly are special. Now let me know in the comments section what you guys think about these. Where would you guys have ranked these bosses? What boss designs do you guys think are the best? Let me know everything in the comments. Now remember to like, comment, subscribe, do anything you guys can to help me. I am just one guy and I make these videos because it is my passion. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. This has been DrewSpacely. Peace. Yeah, you son of a bitch. Can't get away from me this time. Not this time. No, I got the dub. Sorry, one more thing. I wasted a lot of time and energy making this video right here, so please, go check it out.